That finish on Sunday had me frozen for a moment, just staring at the screen like, did that seriously just happen? Because those final laps weren't just exciting, they felt like the kind of moment that sparks debates all week. And the wild part? It wasn't only about who took the checkered flag, but how it all unfolded. It was one of those moves that makes you rethink the boundary between smart, calculated racing and something a little more controversial. You could feel the pressure building before the restart, and then within seconds, everything erupted. Now the garage is buzzing with one big question. Was that pure teamwork or did it cross the line? If you followed NASCAR long enough, you know, moments like these don't just define a race, they shape the entire season. So what really went down? On that final restart at the Worth 400, it came down to three drivers, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Alex Bowman. And in just a few seconds coming out of turn two, everything was decided. Hamlin played it perfectly, calm, controlled, exactly where a veteran needs to be to seal the deal. But on the inside lane, Elliott had something extra. Bowman glued to his rear bumper, fully committed. No hesitation. That push down the straight gave Elliott the exact boost he needed to edge ahead of Hamlin. From there, it was game over. Clean air, track position, no one was catching him. If you're following NASCAR, just hit that subscribe button. Here's where things get interesting. Hamlin didn't hold back after the race. He made it clear. That push from Bowman is what made the difference. And honestly, it's hard to argue. That wasn't just support, it was the move that decided the outcome. But Hamlin went further. He framed it as a team effort from Hendrick Motorsports. And he pointed out what many fans noticed. Bowman never really went for the win himself. He played the teammate role the entire time. That's where opinions split. Some fans say that's just racing, teammates helping each other, drafting, pushing for the organization. It's been part of NASCAR forever, but others side with Hamlin. At this level, wins are rare, and not every driver would sacrifice their own shot like that. Bowman's full commitment to Elliott definitely raised some eyebrows. And then there's the intensity of that push. Hamlin called it aggressive, maybe even a bit too much. Watching it again, you can see why. At those speeds, especially during a tight restart, even a small mistake could have triggered a massive wreck, not just for them, but for the entire field. Hamlin's point? That move didn't just decide the race, it risked everything around it. And whether you agree or not, it's exactly the kind of moment that keeps everyone talking. It was the kind of push that makes you hold your breath for a split second, thinking this could turn ugly in an instant. But it didn't. It came together flawlessly. Elliott grabs the win, Bowman plays his role to perfection, and Hamlin is left in second with plenty to say about how it all unfolded. To his credit, though, Hamlin didn't lose control in the post-race reaction. He stayed composed. In fact, he even admitted Elliott probably needed that win more than he did. That's a veteran mindset right there. Because Hamlin and his team are in a solid spot points-wise. They're focused on the bigger picture. Consistency, playoff positioning, staying in control over the long run. A win is always valuable, but they're not in a must-win situation. For Elliott, though, that victory means everything. It's a huge swing. Momentum, confidence, and a much stronger playoff position all come with it. So yes, Hamlin walks away a bit frustrated, maybe feeling like strategy and teamwork cost him the race. But at the same time, he knows he's still exactly where he needs to be in the grand scheme. And that's what makes this situation so compelling going forward. Now there's tension. Hendrick Motorsports just showed how far they're willing to go when it comes to working together. Drivers like Hamlin are paying attention, and you can bet this won't be the last time these names are fighting each other with everything on the line. Moments like this don't just stay in one race, they carry forward. Into next week, into the playoffs, into every restart where these same drivers line up side by side again. And honestly, this is exactly the kind of drama fans live for. Now let's be real for a second, because this is where it gets interesting if you actually follow the sport closely. What we saw between Hamlin, Elliott, and Bowman perfectly highlights both the excitement and the frustration of modern NASCAR. On one side, that was elite execution from Hendrick Motorsports, no question about it. Elliott did exactly what he needed to do, put himself in position and trust his teammate. And Bowman, He delivered perfectly. No hesitation, no second thoughts. Wallace even opened up about that in an interview, saying there's no jealousy, just that honest feeling of, when is it going to be our turn? And that hits differently because it's real. It's not frustration at others, it's the hunger to break through. That's why a wreck like this stings even more. Just when things start clicking, something like this pulls you right back. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. After the crash, everyone had the same question. Was this the biggest wreck Talladega has ever seen? The answer, almost, but not quite. With 26 cars involved, it's easily one of the largest pileups in NASCAR Cup Series history at Talladega Superspeedway. But it still falls short of the record-setting 28-car crash from the October 2024 playoff race. Before that, the 2003 Aaron's 500 held the benchmark with 27 cars for years. So while this one doesn't top the list, it absolutely belongs in that conversation. And the way it unfolded, pure Talladega chaos. Lap 116, a push goes wrong, Bubba Wallace gets turned, and suddenly the track disappears under smoke. Drivers behind have zero visibility, and at nearly 200 miles per hour, there's simply no time to react. You hear radio chatter like, "It's a parking lot back here," and that pretty much sums it up. This is exactly why Talladega has the reputation it does. Tight packs, high speeds, and almost no margin for error. One small misjudgment, a bad push, a blocked lane, and half the field is gone in seconds. That's superspeedway racing. When you put everything together, the scale of the wreck, NASCAR's ongoing review, the emotional hit for Wallace, and the historical angle, this wasn't just another crash. This is the kind of moment that can shape an entire season. If NASCAR decides to penalize him, that could seriously impact his trajectory. Even without penalties, a DNF this early hurts, especially when consistency matters so much heading toward the playoffs. And as fans, we all know, at Talladega, something like this is always just one moment away from happening again. That's the balance of this sport. It's exciting, unpredictable, and at times brutally unforgiving. That's what makes NASCAR what it is. Now, honestly, looking at it from a fan's perspective, I don't think Wallace deserves a suspension. This felt like classic superspeedway racing. At tracks like Talladega, everyone is riding the edge every lap. One slight angle, one mistimed push, and everything unravels. That's exactly what this looked like. At the same time, it makes sense why NASCAR is reviewing it. When 26 cars are wrecked, you have to analyze everything: data, throttle input, radio communication, because safety always comes first. But from what we saw, it didn't look intentional or unusually reckless compared to typical racing at these tracks. If anything, it highlights just how unpredictable Talladega still is, even with modern safety improvements. And the tough part? The timing. Wallace was building real momentum this season. He was consistent, competitive, and starting to look like a regular contender up front. Compared to someone like Reddick winning races, it felt like Wallace was getting closer to his own breakthrough. Then this happens, and suddenly it resets everything. That's what hurts the most as a fan. Not just the crash, but what it takes away from a driver who was genuinely putting together a strong run. From a historical standpoint, this is why Talladega never loses its edge. Even when it's not the biggest crash ever, it still feels unforgettable. 26 cars might not be a record, but it's massive, and it proves that the big one is always just one mistake away. So yeah, in my view, this was a racing incident. A harsh one, no doubt, but still part of the nature of superspeedway racing. No suspension, just learn from it and move forward. But what do you think? Should NASCAR step in, or was this just one of those unavoidable moments?